To start the list off proper, let's visit everyone's favorite alien who owns Yuma at every corner through his savage observations, Astral. In the final episodes of Zexal, Astral dueled Yuma with every Utopia monster shown up to that point, so, like, 70, and formed our number 10 entry, number 99 Utopic Dragon. This monster can revive any number monster from the graveyard without needing to use a material, but its effects are negated. This is great for a normal Utopia to go into S39, or since this is a rank 10 with no real way of cheating it out via rank up magic, you can bring back your Super Dora, as, hey, it's a number, and it's a rank 10! Otherwise, if the opponent tries to use an effect to make it leave the field, you can detach the material to negate it and turn it into a Dark Hole effect that also burns for the total attack of monsters popped from the effect. So not only can you extend your plays, and will this allow you to easily go into the Xyz spiders, but you can also just kill your opponent if they ever try and hurt number 99. Probably named that way because there are literally 98 other Utopias this thing was made to revive from the grave. Yuma really wasn't proud of his initial ace monster, I guess. If those feelings of inadequacy led to this chat of a dragon, I guess they're entirely worth it. Number 9 is a three-way tie to all three Nordic gods. The reason all three of these monsters are lumped together is due to each having their powerful uses, as well as a shared kind of effect clause that I'll bring up in a bit. Thor was brought up in the Best Synchros video, justifiably, as I do feel like he is the strongest on most occasions, but to summarize, he can negate the effects of all monsters on your opponent's side of the field, steal their effects, revive with burn, and it's generic, something that the other two gods also share as a summoning trait. Loki can negate battle traps and spells when it attacks, and recycles traps from your graveyard when it's destroyed, so you can make God get back God to say no. As for the big boy Odin, he makes all spell and trap effects that would affect divine beasts, which actually all of the Nordic gods are, since they're all divine and divine beasts in the anime. They're all null and void alongside free revival and a free draw on summon. Keep in mind when I say free revival, this just means that you don't have to banish the Aesir monster like in real life. Given all this and the Nordic support from Soul Fusion and legendary heroes, Aesirs are bonkers with these three titans. Hell, you might just even splash them in if you ever wanted to make a level 10 synchro, but Leo just wasn't good enough for the time. Seeing the Nordic gods more often would also make the game much more fun to me personally anyway. We get to see more cards like Mengingjord and Goturdammerung. I hope I pronounced those right. I think I did anyway. Any native speakers in the comment section that wanna fact check me on that? Moving on from one set of gods to another, however, from this point onward, I would like to say that trios of monsters will not make the cut due to very obvious fluctuations in power. Nordics were an exception due to them serving similar parts and active roles all the same, but still having small unique qualities that I wanted to share off. Number 8, on the other hand, is strictly better than his brothers. Make room for Uriah, Lord of Searing Flames. Unlike the real-life Uriah that needs to send 3 face-up traps to the grave for its summon, Uriah in the anime can take 3 traps in general. They could even be set. He also gains 1000 attack for every trap in the grave, period, not just continuous traps. He also has the uninterruptible back row popping effect like his IRL counterpart, but what sets him apart from Haman and Raphael is that Uriah has a revival effect. If he ever does get destroyed, you can merely send a trap from the hand to the graveyard to bring him back at the cost of his activated effects for the turn and his attack if you have another monster on the field. Weird restrictions, but that's okay. Raphael is much harder to summon most of the time, and Haman is just kind of a 4K wall and beatstick with an effect I've literally never seen anyone pull off. They're not bad cards, it's just that Uriah shines through and is the true king of the sacred beasts. Yes, this counts Armatile, he's just kinda not good. You guys remember Gozaburo Kaiba? You know, Kaiba's adoptive father who was owned so hard he retreated to a video game world to prepare for vengeance? Well, in that world, Gozaburo decided to own his own son so hard that he'd have to use the very card that gave him a crushing loss due to luck, only corrupted by his sheer hatred of Seto. Number 7 on the list is EXODIA NECROSS. However, unlike what we got IRL, this version is a strict improvement. First of all, it's a level 4 ritual monster. Okay. As such, there's a crap ton of ritual support to bring him out easier. Whether you're talking about preparation of rites, to generic ritual stuff, to the fact that incantations exist. They're all here for EXODIA. As for his effects, he gains an effect per piece of EXODIA in the graveyard. To go down the list, the head gives him battle protection, the left and right legs give spell and trap protection respectively, the left arm gives monster effect protection, and the right arm gives him the power to gain a stack at the end of the damage step whenever he battles a monster. Yes, this just snowballs into an indestructible beatstick. However, there are still issues. Namely, its effects are tied to the EXODIA pieces in the graveyard, so cards like Called or DD Crow can remove these effects. My solution for you? Invest in Necro Valley and Negation. What I find interesting is that Seto and Mokuba have their adoptive father's last name of Kaiba, yes? So why in this scene does Seto describe his theoretical theme park he wants to build like this in the dub?
Awesome sandcastle, Seto!
It's an amusement park, and someday it'll be real. Everyone on Earth will want a vacation at Kaiba Land.
He literally has no idea what that name is or why it's significant and will be a huge part of his identity yet. So it just makes for one of the weirdest dubisms in the anime. He was gonna name his theme park the equivalent of Jones Land. It's just a name, it didn't mean anything past that. Now for one of the main event monsters, ladies and gentlemen. No introduction needed here aside from the fact that all of you know he was going to make the list and he's probably on the thumbnail. The Winged Dragon of Ra. This titan was the pinnacle boss for the Battle City arc, and its effects show. To start things off, it has the same effect the Egyptian gods have in the form of divine hierarchy. To summarize, it's basically a ranking of the monster's level above a normal monster that was only explored in the unholiness that is Yu-Gi-Oh! R, and only those of the same hierarchy or above can beat each other. So, let's just keep in mind that Ra has a hierarchy of 2, making it above Obelisk and Slifer with a hierarchy of 1. And most every other monster just has a hierarchy of 0. In terms of effects, this chicken puts Stromberg to shame. Cannot be tributed, control cannot be switched, unaffected by effects that would make him leave the field unless by a monster of his hierarchy or more, which is only the next card on the list, as well as its own effects which... Okay, I'm gonna have to take another breath here. Stats become what the total of what was used to tribute summon him was. He's unaffected by cards that would stop its attacks, as well as get even more crap when specialed from graveyard, like paying life points till you have 1 life point to gain that much in stats, attacking all monsters the opponent has, and then immediately going for the opponent, making life point gains into stat buffs, as well as tributing monsters to gain their stats. Whew! To spare my jaw the need of more ice from that word salad, the only thing else to note is that this effect gives it a weakness to defusion, that's about it. Actually, no. Remember how Merrick could just save all his life points and negate his own Ra's attack by defusing himself from Ra? Yeah, it actually helps you too. Why? I don't know. They added an effect to Ra literally every time it was played. Lastly, let's talk about the fact that if your opponent ever takes it from you, like with Exchange, they have to know the exact chant to bring it out. It's just a whole mess of gobbledygook that makes very little sense to anyone who's actually watched the show, and even less to people who have not. Now then, on to the promotions while I ice my jaw. Topologic Gumblar Dragon. You know how Delinquent Duo's banned? You know how Delinquent Duo on legs is worth a ban? Well, just imagine the emergency ban the anime version would have been given if it was printed. If something is summoned to its arrowed zones while you have a card in hand, obliterate the entire hands of both players. On top of that, he has abilities if involved in an extra link. Something you can do quite easily if you try hard enough. Namely, he can nuke the opponent's hand at will, and burn for 3k that cannot be negated, as well as giving nightmare levels of protection as a replacement for Cerberus. This is a good time to say that, if you didn't know, the weaker, real-life version of this card is entirely banned on the TCG as of the making of this video. Banned card that was even better in the anime. That'll make for a good video. Subscribe for that and comment down below what you think should be on that list. Number 2 comes from the Yusei fanboy from the future, Zone. Spoilers, I guess. And this time, we have his war machine known as Cephylon, the ultimate Time Lord. This big bad may need the power of infinite light to be special summoned, but don't count a good old tribute summon out. I mean, you do have Time Maiden, so keep that in mind. Either way, whoo boy, is this a treat. He can spam the board with Time Lords from hand deck or graveyard, put them to 4,000, 4,000, and then Cephylon decides to gain the attack of the other Time Lords so that he's always just 20,000 for whatever reason. As well, even if he would get destroyed, he has the right to stay by killing his fellow angelic brothers. No, disciples. If he ever wanted to make Protect the Castle Time Lords into something incredibly aggressive, then this is the card for you. Or, you know, you could go into links and then make rank 10 train plays. I'm sure Rada would absolutely cream himself at the sight of something so powerful, especially with all the new train support that has recently come out. Aggressive OTKs, control strategies to weaken everything your opponent has, or even a mix of both. Cephylon really makes gods look like mere mortals before him. Number 1 was no contest for me. It's just the easiest thing to bring out, possibly, but definitely the easiest thing to get from summon to win the game with. Should have gotten the hint, but I had to reveal it a bit early. It's Wira Kosharaska. And yes, I pronounced that correctly. I watched the anime. Their names are Chaku Chalua, Aslapisku, it's spelled without an I for some reason, and Kokaraya, in case you never knew. And you better know how to pronounce the spider, dude. Ooh. Anyway, Weird Kocharaska is a level 10 with some impressive stats. A whole 2. Literal 1-2, split evenly between attack and defense, because the anime doesn't care about keeping things in multiples of 100 like the game does. First off, limiting the opponent from immortals in general, which makes this kind of have an interaction along the lines of the legend rule from Magic the Gathering. If you have one, your opponent has a dead card and you're the only player to have this kind of power. It's actually important considering this card's raw just edge that you'll get in the game. Along with that, standard immortal effects, but what really sells it is the final effect. You can skip the battle phase, and the opponent's life points go to 1 point. This is absolute pure degeneracy, considering, yes, you can use sparks to go for game. Other good cards include GAGAGA Cowboy in the extra deck, and any card that locks the opponent from anything, like Chain Energy or even Flare Metal Dragon. Mausoleum of the Emperor, this card, and any of the above listed game enders can make this a 3-card FTK with a good amount of searchability through terraforming and whatever you want to search your burn cards, like Trickstars if you really want to make that work. Genuinely, there are just so many things to do with this card, every single one of them ending with your opponent destroyed.